Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something incredibly relevant. We are going to translate Pope Leo XIV's brand new encyclical, MAGNIFICA Humanitas, into a practical, student-friendly survival guide for the artificial intelligence revolution. Think about it. We blindly trust algorithms with almost everything today, right? From what movies we binge on a Friday night to who we decide to date. But we rarely hit pause to ask what all this means for our very humanity. So today, we're going to break down how this historical document uses a truly timeless ethical framework to help us navigate the modern tech landscape.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 2 paths for AI, prioritizing dignity over efficiency, the digital common good, holding developers accountable, avoiding the transhumanist trap, and finally, rebuilding our digital world.
Section 1. 2 paths for AI. Right now, we're standing at a massive historical crossroads regarding how we integrate artificial intelligence into our society, and we are facing 2 very different paths.
Now, before we actually evaluate those paths, we really need to define our ethical lens here, which is Catholic social doctrine. And hey, I know that sounds like dry theology, but it's really not. It's actually a process of shared discernment that combines spiritual wisdom with human sciences. You can kind of think of it as a troubleshooting manual for society, a super practical tool for judging how technology should actually work to benefit everyone.
To make sense of this, the Pope uses 2 really vivid biblical analogies. On one side, we have Babel. This represents an unaccountable, top-down system that sacrifices our humanity for pure efficiency, basically pushing absolute uniformity. On the flip side, we have Jerusalem, representing a rebuilding effort where technology actually serves the community, embraces diverse voices, and respects our natural human limits. So the big question we have to ask ourselves as we interact with AI every single day is, which city are we helping to build?
Section 2. Dignity over algorithmic efficiency. Let's establish our core metric for evaluating AI.
The fundamental rule of this whole framework is ontological dignity. Now, that is just a very fancy way of saying that you matter infinitely simply because you exist as a human being. You don't have to earn this worth, you don't have to justify it, and it absolutely cannot be diminished by failure. And most importantly for this topic, your worth is absolutely not determined by how productive, optimized, or efficient you are.
So the real battleground we're looking at here is the technocratic paradigm. This is a pervasive tech mindset that basically reduces people to mere data points to be optimized or like little cogs in a giant efficiency machine. Standing in total opposition to this is Christian humanism, which values people simply for existing. Listen, when an AI system treats you as just a resource to be squeezed for engagement or for corporate profit, it fundamentally violates this dignity.
I mean, have you ever felt like an algorithm was treating you like just a number? Maybe an automated resume spanner unfairly rejected a job application you worked so hard on, or your social media feed boxed you into this extreme echo chamber category just to keep you endlessly scrolling. The Pope specifically warns us against letting automated systems dictate life-altering decisions. And why? Because an algorithm doesn't know mercy, it doesn't know forgiveness, and it literally cannot comprehend hope. Without real human compassion in the loop, AI so easily becomes an instrument of cold, calculated exclusion.
Let's move on to Section 3, the digital common good. How exactly do we handle the incredible resources that are powering these algorithms?
Much like the Earth's water, soil, and air, the encyclical makes this fascinating argument that digital infrastructure and data are now universal goods. Just think about that for a second. The massive data sets that actually train and power modern AI are essentially generated by all of us just by simply living our lives online. Therefore, these tools and these infrastructures are intended to benefit the entire human family, not just a select few people at the top.
So we really have to ask ourselves, should these incredibly powerful tools remain concentrated in the hands of a few private transnational companies? Because when digital wealth and computing power are monopolized like that, it creates a terrifying new form of global inequality. The alternative here, which is rooted in this principle called the universal destination of goods, demands equitable access for the global community. It means ensuring that schools, vulnerable populations, and developing nations have the direct access and the education they actually need to thrive in the digital age.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, holding developers accountable. How do we govern AI safely?
To prevent those massive tech monopolies from basically ruling our lives from afar, the encyclical applies a really cool concept called subsidiarity. Essentially, this means decisions shouldn't be made by some distant top-down authority if they can be made locally. In the context of artificial intelligence, it means your local community should have a real meaningful say in the technology that governs your daily life. Think of it like this. If a school is adopting a new AI grading software, that decision shouldn't just come from a distant tech CEO or even a state bureaucrat. It should actively involve the actual teachers, parents, and students who have to use it every day.
So, what does this look like in practice? Well, the Pope lays out some very specific requirements. First, it demands independent checks and strict oversight. It requires transparency regarding algorithms. I mean, we need to know exactly how these systems are making decisions about our lives, right? It calls for equitable access to data, and critically, it demands meaningful input from local communities, schools, and civic groups.
Because ultimately, the rules for our digital lives cannot be drafted exclusively in closed Silicon Valley boardrooms. True accountability means that you, your school, and your neighborhood deserve a seat at the table. Developers absolutely have a moral and spiritual responsibility to build positive values into their platforms, but they also must be legally subject to the shared standards of social justice set by the very communities their tech impacts.
Section 5. The Transhumanist's Trap. Now we need to address the deep philosophical dangers lurking right behind these algorithms.
As technology advances exponentially, it creates a very, very real temptation to use AI to try and eliminate all human weakness. We have immense power in our hands right now, and the temptation is to use this technology to transcend our natural limits entirely, basically viewing our normal human frailties as a bug in the system that desperately needs to be patched by a machine.
We have to constantly contrast these two ideas. On one side, we have this transhumanist illusion of becoming a flawless, optimized machine, a hybrid of human and technology that views any limits as defects. But on the other side, we have authentic humanity, and this perspective finds profound, genuine beauty precisely in our limits, our empathy, our vulnerability, and our fundamental need for grace.
And here is a super profound shift in perspective. What the technocratic paradigm sees as a defect to be fixed, our illness, our failures, our vulnerability, is actually the exact space where human compassion, empathy, and love are born. If we use AI to try and engineer away all of our struggles and smooth out all of our rough edges, we severely risk engineering away the very things that make us capable of deeply loving one another.
And finally, Section 6. Rebuilding the digital world. Let's look at the actionable steps for how we actually move forward.
Look, the goal of Catholic social doctrine isn't to just reject AI entirely. We don't want to go out and smash the machines. Instead, the Pope calls us to disarm AI. This means freeing it from the endless, exhausting race for monopolistic control and aggressive commercial competition. We have to boldly reject the Babel syndrome that prioritizes profit and sheer efficiency over the vulnerable among us. Ultimately, our main task is to intentionally build a digital civilization that is based on love, justice, and true fraternity.
So as you navigate the algorithms in your own life today, whether that's the feed on your phone, the tools you use for school, or the software you're running at work, I want you to judge them by this ultimate metric. Is this technology actually making us more human? Does it foster real, genuine connection, or does it just isolate us? Does it respect our intrinsic dignity, or does it treat us as a resource to be harvested? The AI revolution is already here, but whether it builds a cold prison of data or a thriving civilization of love is entirely up to what you demand of it next. Thanks so much for joining this explainer.